Westward Bound is another revised version of a VHS film made in the early 90s. It starts in Southampton and follows a voyage to New York in the first Queen Elizabeth. On arrival, we take a train to the Niagara Falls and then south to Washington, D.C. Later, we join Stella Polaris as she cruises in the Caribbean, before joining Iberia in Trinidad to transit the Panama Canal. But first, we can watch this black and white film of the Queen Mary leaving Southampton. Where better to start a transatlantic voyage than Waterloo Station? The boat train arrives. Southampton, Queen Elizabeth loading baggage and stores for her voyage across to New York. The United States sails up Southampton waters. Queen Elizabeth prepares to sail. Ocean Terminal. There'll be a lot of people on the quay today to say goodbye. The odd streamer or two. The band plays on the quayside. Queen looks majestic. Over 80,000 tons. At this stage, the largest liner afloat in the world. A voyage to the New World. The majestic liner slips slowly down Southampton water. Her next port will be Cherbourg. It's quite cold on deck. Past the Calshot lightship. A few hours later arrive in Cherbourg. Here we are arriving in Cherbourg. The Union Jack and the Cunard flag. But shortly we're away again on our voyage across the Atlantic to New York. It's cold out here, and soon we'll be seeing the first of a few of the early summer's icebergs. Thoughts of Titanic. But these seem fairly innocent. We leave the icebergs behind and steam on towards New York. A great pity that we can't show you scenes under the top decks, but this was because the early cine film needed special lighting, and as this is amateur film, very few people had those facilities. Nevertheless, we can concentrate on top decks. The sun comes out as we steam towards New York, but it's still fairly cold. The Statue of Liberty. The pilot boat comes out, and soon the pilot will be on board. The Manhattan landscape. We leave the Statue of Liberty behind as we move towards our own birthing place. New York, safely tied up. We'll have a look round the town before making our way on the train up to Niagara Falls. From Niagara Falls, we'll come south to Washington and eventually go to the deep south, where we pick up our next ship, Stella Polaris. A rather hazy view from the top of the Empire State Building. In the distance you might see Iberia tied up. There she is now. We now leave New York and head up towards Niagara Falls. As we get towards the border, we pass Canadian Pacific Rail stop. Here we are at a vantage point, looking at the magnificent Niagara Falls. I had to turn the sound off, it was far too loud. A little boat shows the view from underneath the falls. We're now on our way south towards Washington. You'll see the early autumn colours. Our next stop is at Washington. We're going to winter here before moving to the deep south. This is the White House, and we visit the military cemetery where John F. Kennedy was buried. In the spring, the azaleas are in full bloom. We're now in New Orleans. Some of the magnificent porticos on the houses on the Oak Alley plantation. Stella Polaris. We're about to start the second part of our trip, and this will be a tour of the Caribbean in this old Swedish liner. We start visiting the Grand Cayman Islands. The ship is anchored away out, and the passengers are taken ashore by tender. Here we see them at the beach hotel. This is 7 Mile Beach. Leaving the Grand Cayman, Georgetown, at Jamaica in the West Indies. The Reef Club, Oca Rios. We move to Kingston. Leaving Kingston in the evening, we see the Santa Paula. Our next port of call is Colombia. Here we visit Cartagena. The El Morro Castle and many churches are to be seen in the city. And a sloth makes its way slowly across the beach. Aruba, in the Netherlands Antilles. Scenes at the Aruba Beach Hotel, the only beach hotel in those days. Staying in the Antilles, we moved to Curaçao. The floating market, noted for its vegetables, most of which come from Venezuela. As we leave the port, you'll notice the Dutch influence on the buildings. Venezuela, the home of many statues to past heroes, generals, and other notables. We look around the capital, Caracas, and will move shortly to the Hotel Tamanca. Another port we're now seeing coming into the French Antilles. We land at Gustavia. This island in those days was completely unspoilt. Only the Stella and the Meteor, which we will see later, called there in the 60s. A look around the town. It really was a tropical paradise in those days, but I'm sure it's just as nice now, if a little more commercialized. Stella is now passing along the coast, and the dormant volcano, Mount Pelée. Stella Polaris was designed solely for cruising and made many round-the-world voyages. She was initially owned by the Bergen Line and was captured by the Germans in 1940 and used first for trooping, then as a rest ship for U-boat crews. She resumed Bergen Line service but was bought by the Clipper Line early in 1952. Her present accommodation, that is, in the 1960s, included 4 double suites, which were deluxe, 6 double cabins, also deluxe, and then there were other single and double cabins, many with private facilities, and a few with removable third berths. I mentioned the meteor earlier. Here she is. A statue of the Empress Josephine, a daughter of a Creole Beauharnais family of Martinique who married Napoleon I. Grenada in the Windward Islands. Here we are arriving at St. George's. We are going to leave Stella in Trinidad. We'll join the P&O liner Iberia. But first a look around the town and some of the beaches close by. Port of Spain. Those passengers not ashore, limbo dancers, are performing on the sea deck in the tourist class accommodation. The rest of the passengers will shortly rejoin, and we're off to the Bay of Panama. Iberia of the P&O lines. She was 29,000 tons and made her maiden voyage in 1954. Here she's seen at sea, heading towards Cristobal on the Atlantic Ocean side of the Panama Canal. The Commodore on his bridge, and one of the other deck officers. A tanker passes close by. In the meantime, the deck crew make ready the boats for the next trip ashore. We enter the canal. The ship will then pass through 3 flights at Gatton Lock before entering the Gatton Lake. There's a rise of 85 feet in the process. These mules will pull the ship through the locks. The passage through the Panama Canal will take the best part of the day, and it's bound to be steamy hot and probably raining at some stage during the passage. A passenger cargo ship of the Blue Star Line. We'd like to kid you that this is Iberia now, but I regret it's not. It is, however, the Pacific steam navigation ship Reina del Mar, which will later become a Union Castle ship. The canal has a two-way passage, and the gap between the ship and the lock on either side is amazingly narrow, a few feet at the most. It will shortly be lunchtime, and the chef is bound to produce an on-the-deck buffet. This ensures that nobody misses anything as they pass through the canal. Our passage is assisted by tugs. We pass this magnificent waterfall. We're about halfway through now. A memorial stone dedicated to the many of the workers who died constructing the canal. a huge dredger. A passenger cargo vessel, Primos. There are some very good shots of her later on. We go through the Pedro Miguel lock and then enter the series of Miraflores locks, dropping down to the Pacific Ocean. I see it's been raining. I said it would. The Primos is a small passenger cargo liner, but I regret I'm unable to find any further details either from Dunn or from Clunas. We leave the Panama Canal and make towards Long Beach, Los Angeles, in Southern California, which will be our journey's end.